So we're going to talk about dividing polynomials today. In the last section, we talked about adding, subtracting, multiplying. How about when you divide a polynomial, right? Okay, so you can divide a polynomial by a monomial or another polynomial. So take a look at this one here. On top, right, do you see how this is a, right, so you have a polynomial on top here, but in the bottom, you have just a monomial. So here what you have is a polynomial divided by a monomial, okay? To divide a polynomial by a monomial, we just divide each monomial of the polynomial in the numerator by the one in the denominator, right? So what I mean by that is here you have 20c to the 4 d squared f. You have to divide each one of these by this independently, right? So let's do just this first one. 20 divided by 4 would give you 5, right? And then c to the 4 over c cubed, d squared over d, that's d, and then f cancels out, right? And now, here you have a minus for this one. 16 over 4 gives you a 4. Oh my goodness. Okay, so 4, and then the c's cancel, the d's cancel, and it's just an f. And then finally, the last one, the 4's cancel, so do the CDFs, but what do we have in its place?
1.
Plus 1. Correct, right? So that's the final answer, okay? Remember that when everything cancels, it's a plus 1 or a minus 1. Now, suppose the denominator here was more than one term, right? If you're dividing by a polynomial with more than one term, if in the denominator you have more than one term, there are two ways to do it. We have long division and we have synthetic division. All right, now long division is exactly the way you remember doing long division back in the day when you learned it. When was the first time you learned how to do long division?
4th grade.
3rd or 4th grade, right? That's when you learned to do it. So let's just remind ourselves how we used to do long division, right? So suppose you have, let's say, 3. So let's say it's like 155 divided by 3, right? Do you remember that it used to look like this?
Yeah.
Right? So what do you do now?
Divide by 3.
You divide 15 by 3. Right? Or you know what? Let's make this 4. Just so it's a little bit more fun. Right? So you divide 15 by 4 and you get 3. So you're going to put 3 here, right? So first we divided 15 by 4 and we got 3. Okay. Right, so we're going to divide 15 by 4 and what is that going to give us? 3 we said, right? So we take the 3 and we put it up here, and I know you know how to do this. So then what's the next step? 4 times, right? So now we multiply, right? And you get 12, and then you have to subtract, right? So you get 3, and then you bring down the 5. I know you know how to do this, but you're so good at doing this with the numbers, you do it mechanically without even knowing what you're doing, right? But now we have to actually keep in mind what we're doing. So now we repeat the whole process over again. Divide this by this, and that will give you 8. So you put the 8 here. Then again, you multiply. You subtract. And then you're left with a remainder. So what are some ways to write this then? We have 155 divided by 4. How do I write it? I can say that's 38 remainder 3. But what's an even better way of writing it? 38 plus 3 over 4. Have you seen that one before?
No.
Right. So it's 38 plus 3 over 4. We put the remainder over this number 4.
Oh,
Let's go a little bit over what we call all of these numbers. What do we call this number? The 38. When you divide the quotient. Okay, does anybody know what you call the 155? Brownie points to anybody who can figure this out. Not the, it's the dividend. 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 What's this then? The 4. Yeah. The divisor. Right? So in the end, the answer will look like the dividend divided by the divisor. Oh my. Yeah, I keep saying T equals quotient plus remainder over divisor. So that's how we always write it. Okay? And now this is cool. We can do it with numbers. Now we're going to do this with polynomials. So instead of the 155, we're going to have like 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. Instead of the 4, we're going to have 2x minus 3. So let's do that. Okay? All right, so here we have something divided by something else. Just like before, we say x minus 3 divided into x squared plus 7x minus 30. Now, remember what the first step over there was? Divide one by the other. So first, I divide. Here's how I do it though. The first term by the first term. So x squared over x gives you x. You take that and you put it over there. Second step was to do what? Multiply. Right now I'm going to multiply. X times x minus 3 gives you x squared minus 3x. Okay, next it's to subtract, right? Okay, when you do this, make sure you align the x squares together and the x's together and the x cubes together. So next it's the subtraction step. Now, here's how I do the subtraction. Subtract is change the signs and add, right? So you can either, if you have 5 minus 3, that's the same as 5 plus negative 3, right? You could add by the negative. So here's what I do. Change the sign and add. Okay? Now, what do we get? These go away. They're always going to go away, those first terms. So now I have 7 plus 3, 10x. Now, a term comes down.